Welcome back to the channel, guys. I hope everyone's doing well. Today we're going to fit a new induction system to my TT there. So those of you who've been following the channel for a while, you'll know I've got a MK3 Audi TT. It's had some mods done to it. It's currently on a stage 1, so it's running just over sort of 300 horsepower, and I'm planning to sort of do some extra mods to it to give it some extra power. So the first thing I'm going to do is fit this Racingline R600 high performance induction system. Now this is a sort of tried and tested thing. It's been around for like a few years now. Well, quite, I think maybe more. But yeah, basically they've developed this, and it's kind of like an OEM replacement. It's not just like an air filter that you kind of bolt on and you take off all the factory airbox. This is like a full replacement. Anyway, I'll open it up and I'll show you what I mean. So at this point I will say this alone isn't going to give you extra power. I mean, it's possible it could do, but it's probably not going to be noticeable. But what's going to be more noticeable is the car is actually going to be able to breathe better. Like the turbo is going to be able to, you know, suck in all that air a lot better. So the sound should be, you know, should improve. That's what I've heard anyway. But this intake system actually forms part of the stage 2 modification. So I'm just going to get it on now, so that then obviously there's less work to do as we go forward. Stage 2, you obviously have to change various parts like decat, pipes and other things. So, you know, as well as remapping again. Now there's a chance we might need to sort of do another remap with this airbox on to get the full advantage of it, but without the remap I've been told it should work fine. It's not going to lose any performance. You just might not get the full advantage of that with a sort of generic map that I've got in that car right now. So let's get cracking. So it's a big box. I was surprised how big the box was actually when it turned up. So in the box, there you go. So you can see this is actually like not just an air filter, it's a whole system that replaces the airbox on the car. Let's open the bonnet up and I'll show you what's inside, other than an engine, of course. So you can see there's the airbox, factory airbox, and the turbo intake pipe. So basically all your air is coming from the front of the car through this filter here. So this whole section here basically gets replaced with that. And the actual filter part is in here. So if you look at this, now this, if you're into modded cars a long time ago, you'd be well familiar with like K&M filters like we used to put on the old fast Fords. But yeah, this effectively goes into that box there. And you know, the whole thing is kept as a cold air intake. Basically, the problem with putting filters on these pipes and having just, you know, like a cone filter there is that it could just suck in warm air from the engine bay, and that is not the idea. You want cold air. Basically you want air coming from the front of the car into there. You know, they designed these airboxes from the factory for a reason like that, you know. So this is what Racingline have done. They've created, you know, a proper intake system. So you can actually see here, you can see that this looks a little bit oily, which is a good thing because that means that it's been oiled from the factory. If it hasn't, according to the manual, it says you've got to oil them. I mean, that's standard practice for any kind of upgraded filter. So we won't take that out of the bag just yet. So the main thing really is we've got to get that off first before we can kind of, you know, think about fitting. Now these can be tricky to get off if you haven't got the right tool, so I'd advise getting the tool for that. Very cheap on Amazon, and they just look like that. So it's an easy way of just undoing that clip to get that off there. So you can see it takes the pain of getting all that off because it's ratcheted as well. You can just leave it, you know, you can leave that clip aside. So we're just going to kind of move that out of the way, and then move that over to there, and then we can actually get that pipe off, and that should be fairly easy to take off. So next up I'm going to take this out, unclip this. So this is like your coolant hose, so be careful with this, don't go too mad. You can replace this as well, but it involves obviously you can replace it with a higher rated pipe, but I'm not going to do that because I don't really want coolant kind of coming out everywhere if I don't have to. So there's another hose there. To get that off is going to be pretty tricky. So I'm actually going to take the airbox, the factory airbox cover off, so I can actually get to that a bit easier and kind of prise that off, because you don't really want to damage that tube. So with that off, that's how you normally replace like a normal filter. And that is the normal filter under there, just normal panel filter. See probably some stuff underneath there, and looks like that could have done with being replaced anyway. Right, so I got it off. It's definitely easier if you remove the actual lid of the airbox, because then you can kind of just hold it there and give it a good yank. But be careful, don't stretch the hose. If it feels like it's going to break, maybe you've got like an old hose or something, it might not be as good as this one. But yeah, it just pulled off, no problem. I did push it forward and then pulled it back a bit just to loosen it up. Makes the job a bit easier. Right, so the rest of it needs to come out now. Now, I'm pretty sure it's this one here and that one there to loosen that. We'll find out in a minute. There's also these kind of like rubber grommets. I think this is how that's held on. I think you've got to yank that off, which is going to be a bit interesting. So we'll see how it goes. There's no other like kind of fixings inside here to look at, but yeah, anyway, we'll figure it. Also, forgot to mention, guys, you do need a torque set to do this, because all cars are basically torques, aren't they now? So I actually grabbed this little set from Audi, and it came with this little screwdriver for like 15 quid, so that's really good. I already had torques anyway, but just little screwdrivers, pretty neat. So those screws are out, and with a little yank, that actually just kind of pulls out, as you can see. That's the intake there. And it is obviously not moving, so just need to be careful with this pipe. But I think what's basically holding it now is these grommets. I think you just need to yank this off. One side looks like it's coming. Yeah, that's just popped off now. The other side is not so easy to do. It might be easier with the actual lid on. Okay, so the factory airbox is out. What makes it difficult is these are like grommets, and you can't see that one under there, so you don't even realise that's even there. And these, basically, you just got to pull them really hard and they come out. That was the idea. But on its way out, I noticed this, which I actually lost down there, which goes on the bottom of the factory airbox, like that. Now, I think that's just some sort of kind of, I don't know, just vent or maybe drainage or something like that. On the other airbox, there kind of is a little space, but obviously you're not really going to fit that. Oh, I don't know actually. It might go on there. Yeah, it does. It just pushes on. So, I mean, I haven't seen that in any videos. I haven't seen anyone mention that. So yeah, that's good. Just got to make sure where that lines up, it isn't above any cables, just in case any kind of moisture comes out of it or whatever. Right, so if we now take the bottom of our R600 and we just sort of position it in there, you'll see that these holes line up with these grommets. And what they do, they give you these. So these have got to be put, obviously, inside here, and I'm presuming it's that way around, so that then when that pushes down, so these are basically just got to be pushed into there before you put it over that, and that will obviously hold it in. Looks like they're only using 2, whereas the factory one uses 3. I'm not sure about that, but unless there's another one on there, but they only give you 2 of these, so that just must be how it is. Now it's going to be a way of getting this in. You've obviously got to go underneath that hose on the top, so we're going to have to go underneath that. So I'm going to have to put the camera down and kind of put that underneath and hopefully line it up. I did see someone actually saying that it fits easier with the top on. I don't know, I can't really see that, but anyway, let's have a go. So we'll put these grommets in first. All right, they're in. Let's see if they're the right way round. Time for a coffee break. Thing about doing this stuff, guys, is you've got to have time. There's no point trying to squeeze this in before you're going to go and do the shopping or something like that. It's just not going to happen. You know, just take your time doing it. It's like anything. If you rush it, you're just going to break something. Right, so it's in place. I had to turn those around. I don't know if I mentioned that. So they just need pushing down now. So that one's in, and that one's in as well. So not quite as crazy secure as the factory one, but you know, it's not going anywhere, and it's obviously provided a bit of shock relief for that as well. I did actually have to take that pipe out before fitting it, because you can't fit it all in underneath this pipe with the other pipe hanging out the bottom. So yeah, I had to kind of stick that in after, which is easy to do because you can actually get your hand under there, just flip that on. So next thing, filter. We've got our little air hose here as well, which has got to go, and I believe that goes just around here on the side of the filter, because if you look at the filter, it's actually got a little inlet there. So we'll get this in. What I might actually do first is just see if this fits. Just put the top on, put the lid on to see if this is going to fit. Obviously it's going to have to go underneath that. There we go, guys, look at that, fits lovely. So I'm actually going to do these up now, put the screws in there so that I know it's all, you know, aligned nicely. This one's a bit kind of out, so that's going to have to be adjusted, but just want to make sure the fitment's right before I start doing everything up. Right, it all actually fits nicely. This one was had to be pushed right down to the bottom to actually get it, you know, straight and aligned. It was a little bit kind of fiddly to get it all straight, but I think that's okay, that's in there. It's definitely worth putting that on first. Right, so I've got the filter here. That actually goes this way round so that little tube fits over that pipe, or the pipe fits over the tube, the little one with the white stripe on it. Hoping it's going to reach, but anyway, let's just get that in there. Right, so with the filter in place, I've actually just put 2 screws in the airbox just to hold the filter in place, and then that allows me to just obviously get that on properly, which requires a bit of force. This thing is a right pain. I highly recommend hose clamps. If you don't have that, it's going to be a right ball ache to do. Okay, basically done then. So I've done that clip on there, and the last thing to connect is obviously this little pipe here. So that's actually no problem at all. There's enough of it to do that. Apologies for the light, you can't really see it that clearly, but that just goes on there. Let's get that on nice and firm, and that is it. All we got to do now is stick the screws in, and then we can fire her up. And now for the best bit. Well, not the best bit, that's starting the car, but the bit before that. Yeah. Nice, and that's the standard exhaust, guys, as well. So let's take it out. I'm going to take it out now and see if we can really hear it, because you can't really hear it on idle, I don't think. Oh, I don't know, I think you can hear it. Listen to that, all that sucky. Right guys, time for a little test then. I'm not going to put it in sport mode yet, I'll just try it in normal drive, dynamic. You can hear it like, almost like an old school dump valve. I don't know if you can hear that in the video. Hang on, let me just, if I turn round, I'll be able to do it against that wall, so the wall's on the other side, you might be able to hear it better. But listen. That sounds so cool. Actually, with the window shut, because I did actually obviously drive up here at this point before I started filming, so I've had a little chance to like test it out. But it's crazy, yeah. You can't hear it that much. It sounds louder. Definitely, exhaust note is definitely louder. But you know, in the car, it's not like crazy difference really. But and power wise, you're not going to notice like any extra horsepower really, because it's quite not that much. But it sounds so good. Listen. That is wicked. Right, so we're going to come against this wall in a minute, and that should, the sound should bounce off a little bit. Oh god, I love this stuff. Right, so look, when you're low in the revs, oh, just wait for a car to come past. Yeah, so when you're low in the revs, obviously that the farts are a lot louder now. Oh, I'm going to carry on going around here. It's starting to rain now as well. You can hear the. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Oh god, it's so cool. Even just low down, it's got a bit more of a kind of rough end note to it as well. Like the TT, like the standard, like these TT in general have like a bit of a raspiness about them. It's a type of engine and exhaust setup, which is great because, you know, it isn't a sports exhaust, but kind of is in a way. But yeah, this kind of accentuates this a bit more. So you noticed it on the startup when it started up, like the cold start, it was a lot more obvious, that sound, which I love. It's like a kind of deep kind of gurgle. But anyway, let's try and let's get to a bit of a straight road. You can really hear it with the window open. That's why I've got the window open, but I'll shut it in a minute so you can hear what it sounds like. But it's more obvious with the window open from what it sounds like outside. Oh, it's just an absolute whoosh. Do you hear that then? Mad. I love it. When it's labouring, that's when you're hearing it. Obviously, you know, as the revs get higher, it's less noticeable because you've got the engine scream as well. So if I'm down sort of low here, it's actually in fifth, and before it drops down, right, so let's just drop it down, give it some beats. Oh. Yeah! So you can't hear it so much because of the road noise, but you know, it's there. Let's try a little start. I won't do launch control. It's just starting to rain as well, it's terrible. Alright, ready? It's quick, this thing, it really is. It kind of, you forget how quick it actually is. It's just such a light car with just quite a lot of horsepower. Right, I'm going to turn back around. Right, so if we do it with the windows shut now, so we're just in drive. Oh, you can hear it, listen, do you hear that? Yeah, you can hear it. It's not obviously not as obvious, because obviously you can hear it outside really loudly, but just inside the car, just with the windows shut, oh, you can hear the oh, it's wicked. That's really cool. I mean, it's worth it just for that, you know. So good. And then drop it down into sport, manual. Yeah. Yeah, it's excellent. Good addition. And obviously, you know, with extra mods and stuff, it's going to make a difference to the, you know, horsepower and everything else. You need the high flow filter. Basically, what we've done here is really just increase the airflow into the turbo and into the engine. We haven't increased what's going out, so we're going to still be restricted by cats and God knows what else that they put on these days. But so that would be the next thing to do, to really open this up. I personally don't want to have a really crazy loud exhaust. I actually like the way the TT sounds as standard. I think it's got a really good balance. Like for a modern car anyway, it actually sounds pretty decent. And you just don't want that you just don't want that low end. You want that, for me, I'd rather it sounds, you know, just have that raspiness but not like too overpowering, and when it's going up the road not going bah, bah. It's not what I'm into. Doing that all the time, I'll end up looking like a bit of a tool, eh?